Meadows Road in San Jose.
What is the rule if a baseball hits the foul pole? The answer next.
How long has it been since you compared homeowners' insurance rates? Log on to southernoak.com to get an instant quote or find an agent near you.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
A baseball hitting the foul pole is ruled a fair ball. And if it's above the wall, well, that's a home run.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Your AC's broke, it ain't no joke. Call Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. Florida Home AC. FloridaHomeAC.com.
Buying or selling surfboards, guitars, amps, or musical instruments or equipment? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn wants to either buy them from you or sell you what you need. Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach. Online at beachesjewelryandpawn.com.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now.
Yellow.
Another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. We are inside of 3 weeks until NFL free agency. Of course, the Combine is next week, if you can believe that, as the offseason really is heating up all over the National Football League. With that, Dalton Miller of Pro Football Network, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Dalton, how we doing, man?
Fantastic. Always ready to talk some ball.
Hey, Dalton, always appreciate the time. You had an interesting video on social media earlier this week talking about Arden Key. Now, here in Jacksonville, we're so caught up in Evan Ingram, so caught up in Jawan Taylor. We'll get to those guys. But, Dalton, seemed like you were very high on Arden Key, a very under-the-radar, I guess, free agent for you.
Yeah, I really like Arden Key, and it's a down free agency class just in general. It doesn't have near the talent that the 2022 class had in free agency, but I think that there are some little gems, and I think Arden Key is one of those guys. He has never really been a down-in, down-out guy. He hasn't played a ton or a bulk of the snaps. He's been more of a, come in on second and long, third and long, rush the passer from a bunch of different spots. But quietly, he's become a very good run defender as well. And I think if a team wants to play him, or even if the Jacksonville Jaguars want to retain him, I think that he's a guy that can step in and play in a starting role if you need him to. Although I do think his best fit is as that, kind of pass rush specialist on third down, somebody who can come in and even at 240 pounds is kind of a difference maker, coming through the B gap as well. He's just a really fun player overall.
Dalton, it's interesting. We always talk about the 1 year prove-it deals, right? That's what they're commonly referred to. The Jaguars have two guys hitting free agency that did that a year ago, Arden Key, and we'll get to Evan Ingram here in a moment. Boy, they certainly proved it. And Arden Key, the interesting thing about him, his sack numbers were only 4.5, and if that's all you look at, that doesn't tell the whole story. He was disruptive. He caused a lot of plays to happen that he didn't necessarily get credit for, and I agree with you. I think Jacksonville's got to try to find a way to keep him. The problem is he's only 26. He'll be 27 in May, and he's probably going to garner a lot of attention on the open market.
Yeah, with it being a little bit of a down year, I could see him making quite a bit more money than he made this past offseason, although with him only playing around 40% of the defensive snaps for the Jaguars, maybe teams are still kind of looking at him as that rotational edge rusher. And if they look at him that way, I can't imagine the Jacksonville Jaguars don't try to, retain him, at more of the top of the market, but still at a reasonable price for what he brings.
You can check out Dalton Miller at Pro Football Network. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Dalton, that does bring us to Evan Ingram. A career year for Evan Ingram. He actually set the Jaguar franchise record for receptions by a tight end and reception yardage for a tight end in a single season. All indications are that he wants to be back. The Jaguars want him back. Could they potentially use the franchise tag if they can't get something done in the next week and a half. But I think, Dalton, and I'm curious your opinion, at this point, I would be surprised if Evan Ingram hit free agency on Monday, March 13th. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't let him hit free agency. I think he's fantastic. For me, and especially in Doug Peterson's offense, I think that he's just a fantastic fit. I think it took that, for him to really be productive. Obviously the regime in New York didn't use him properly. He is not a tight end. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he is a wide receiver playing the tight end position. And, it's kind of nice because it keeps his costs down. Tight ends obviously cost far less than wide receivers do, especially when it comes to that franchise tag. But I think Doug Peterson could really bring the best out in him. And I don't think we've seen his top end yet. I think he's still going to continue to get better. And, if we see Calvin Ridley come back, depending on what happens with him, you're going to see a wide open field for Evan Ingram next year.
Dalton, there are no drawbacks to me for Evan Ingram except one, and maybe I'm overthinking this. He is going to be 29 before the season gets underway. Does that at least affect, if you're Trent Baalke, the GM here, do you give him a 3-year deal as opposed to a 4 or 5-year deal? Would age come into play there at all, knowing he is going to be 29 before the season?
Yeah, I think his athleticism is still, pretty much intact. He stayed, relatively healthy throughout his career. He hasn't had any, really terrible injuries that have kind of zapped his athleticism. I think he can play into, his 32, 33 year and be okay. Still be that kind of freak athlete that he already is. So I think that he's okay when it comes to this contract. There are some other guys in free agency that I would, think about not giving a long-term deal to, but he's not one of them.
Dalton Miller, Pro Football Network, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Dalton, the other one that everybody's talking about here is the one that's probably going to garner the most interest on the open market, and that's Jawaan Taylor. He's never missed a game in his 4-year NFL career, arguably his best season, although there seems to be a disconnect, Dalton, and I'm curious your thoughts. Here in Jacksonville, we were very high on Jawaan Taylor. Yet there are some analytic websites, and I guess it depends what you think of analytics, that maybe were not as high on Jawaan Taylor in 2022. What was your thought on him?
I think he's a good football player. Somebody who definitely has ascended. This past season was definitely his best season. I think it took him some time to really get things going. And you're right, depending on where you look, what you look at when it comes to offensive line metrics, they will look at him unfavorably. But I think that he played really well overall. I mean, you have a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that is quite good at escaping and kind of navigating pressure. And overall, I think that he had a good year. I mean, even those analytical websites that, people would like to talk about the most, I think still had good overall, pass blocking efficiency numbers for him. I think that he's not the most explosive or powerful run blocker in the world. But I think when you look at that offense in totality, there's no problem with giving him kind of a long-term deal to go forward. I think that he is, kind of an ascending player overall.
There's a thought here in Jacksonville, Dalton, that Evan Ingram will be back. Arden Key is the question mark, and Jawaan Taylor maybe the most likely guy to leave just because of the price tag and some of the salary constraints the Jaguars have, combined with Walker Little currently being on the roster. Now, if we assume Cam Robinson is going to come back healthy at left tackle, is it as simple as, all right, as good as Walker Little was at left tackle at the end of the year, you just swing him out to right tackle to replace Jawaan Taylor, or could it be more complicated than that?
It always depends on the person. Walker Little is somebody who played left tackle in college, so it's a little bit of an iffy situation to move somebody from the left side to the right side. Your feet are completely opposite. It is not like Madden where you can just switch spots and be okay. Some guys are able to do it, and other guys just aren't. I don't know what the case would be with Walker Little. I don't know how much time he has spent on the right side, if any at all. But what I will say is there are, a couple of names at right tackle who might be a little less expensive than Jawaan Taylor in free agency. Then you might be able to look at a couple of the older guys, somebody like George Font maybe to come in and be kind of a relief guy if Walker Little doesn't work out. It won't cost a lot of money, but you can have him. He's been a decent player for the Jets for a long time now. Or, you can, bite the bullet and find the money, for a long-term deal for Jawan Taylor. I don't see why that would be a bad decision. He's only 25 years old, and he's got a lot of football left in him.
Couple of more for Dalton Miller of Pro Football Network. Always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Dalton, rewind the clock back, 3 months. Go back to Thanksgiving. The Jaguars were basically 4-8 at the time, and it was same old, same old. And then just like the seas parted and the sun began shining down, the football gods, had had enough of pummeling this city and pummeling this organization. And the Jaguars rattled off 6 in a row, one of the most historic postseason wins in quite some time in that comeback over the Chargers, and really gave the Chiefs all they wanted. The excitement level in this city, as you can imagine, has just skyrocketed. What was your opinion, Dalton, on what the Jaguars did at the end of last year and the forecast for them moving into 2023?
Well, I think Trevor Lawrence is just going to continue to get better. I think that offense could be really, really scary next year. If Calvin Ridley comes back, that offense is going to be very good. And what I liked most about the Jaguars, especially late in the season, is their defense really started to improve down the stretch. Now, I think that they can make a couple of moves in free agency and in the draft to kind of fix a couple of the holes that they have there. The pass rush was kind of up and down, even though I like a lot of the pieces that they have on the front line. So I think, get those young linebackers some more time, a little bit more seasoning. And I think that this is a defense that could be, average or even a little bit above average next year, and an offense that could legitimately be a top 5 offense in the NFL next year. And you guys, really have a lot of reasons to be excited. And you saw somebody who in Trevor Lawrence was not very good as a rookie. And there was situational issues, with that. He was not in a good situation. But a lot of that was just some bad play from him. And you really saw why he was one of the most coveted draft prospects of this generation this past season. And I think he's going to continue to grow from that.
Dalton, as we begin to wrap up, you look at the division, boy, a lot of turnover in the last month. The new general manager in Tennessee, and they just cut 4 or 5 guys earlier this week, including Taylor Lewan, including Robert Woods and Zach Cunningham. Then you got a brand new head coach in Houston and D'Amico Ryans, a brand new head coach in Indy and Shane Steichen. Both of those teams expected to draft quarterbacks in the top 5. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to conclusions here, but when these preseason magazines, Dalton, come out in the next few months, boy, Jacksonville on paper is going to be the overwhelming favorite in the South, correct?
Yes, I believe they will be the overwhelming favorite in the South. And I do this every single year. I did it this year. I did it the year before. I always count Tennessee out. I look at the roster. I look at the way that they're coached offensively, and I'm like, yeah, they're just not going to be very good. And then they do something to be a good football team. And obviously this year they did something to completely turn things around and be a really bad football team late. But I do think Jacksonville should be the favorite going into next season, and I would honestly be quite surprised if they don't win the division next year.
Hey, Dalton, as we say goodbye, last offseason, we saw Hall of Famers switching teams almost every day, right? From Tyreek Hill to Devontae Adams to Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Khalil Mack, go on down the line. A.J. Brown is a great player. He got traded on draft day. I don't know if we'll have near that level of excitement, at least with the big names this year, but certainly there's 2 guys that we're waiting on resolutions from. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Aaron Rodgers now back from the retreat of darkness there in Green Bay. What are you hearing on both guys, and do you think one or both guys could be on the move in the next couple of weeks?
Honestly, I kind of think both of them might be on the move. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens need to tag Lamar Jackson before they can move him, but he should have no shortage of potential options, for trade. And Baltimore should be able to get a good return for him. He's one of the most, if not the most dangerous weapons in the entire NFL. And obviously, he hasn't been able to remain healthy. Him not playing in the playoffs last year, not getting ready, is a little bit of an issue for the Baltimore Ravens from what, Jeremy Fowler reported today. So I think that they're probably just going to move on from him. The contract situation, negotiations have not gone anywhere with him. He wants a ton of guaranteed money, and I don't blame him for wanting a ton of guaranteed money. I think that the way that NFL contracts play out are unfortunate for the players, especially when you have somebody who has had injury concerns, has been banged up here and there, but has also been a huge part of that team's success over the past couple of years as well. From Aaron Rodgers' standpoint, it's such a weird situation because I think that the Jets feel like a perfect opportunity for him to go and, really kind of compete for a division. The Bills are still going to be very good. Miami is going to be very good, but that defense in New York is fantastic. I don't see why he wouldn't want to do that. But then they're, out obviously talking about, making Derek Carr a first ballot Hall of Famer somehow. So I don't know what happens with Aaron. He's such an interesting and peculiar character. I think it'll take the right coaching staff and the right situation to really work for him.
Dalton, I love the website. Tell the good folks here in Jacksonville what they can expect when they head over to Pro Football Network.
We, our mission statement is just to really educate. We don't really do the hot takey stuff. Obviously, we have to have opinions, but we try to at least comb through our opinions and make educated assessments about what's going on around the league.
Dalton Miller of Pro Football Network, one of my favorite websites covering the National Football League. Dalton, really enjoyed the conversation. This is the first time you and I have spoke. It certainly won't be the last. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.
There you go, Dalton Miller of Pro Football Network. And it was really interesting what he said about Arden Key. Look, we have spent, again, time and time and time on Evan Ingram and Jawan Taylor. Arden Key's that third guy, right? Now, you got other guys like Chris Manhertz, Andrew Wingard, Marvin Jones. In fact, there's 12 unrestricted free agents and 1 restricted free agent that are set to hit the market. We're 12 days away. 12, shows away, Hacker After Dark's away from free agency beginnings. We're going to kind of do one player a night moving forward. But Arden Key is a guy that I think a lot of Jaguar fans want back but don't think he's a priority. I got to tell you, this team has trouble getting to the quarterback already. You don't have a lot of guys that have a lot of production in getting to the quarterback. If you're honestly thinking about releasing Roy Robertson Harris for salary reasons, and ultimately you lose Arden Key in free agency, well, then you have a problem. Because Roy Robertson Harris and Arden Key were arguably 2 of your best 3 pass rushers at the end of the year, along with Josh Allen. Now, you hope Trayvon Walker comes on. You'll do some things in the draft. Maybe you'll add a free agent or 2. But if there's any viable way financially to keep Arden Key, you need to do it. What have we talked about? Improve the pass rush, affect the opposing quarterback over and over and over. Well, you can't be then releasing Roy Robertson Harris and not re-signing Arden Key. That's not going to work. What you want to have happen is the exact opposite of what would be happening under that scenario. So, as important as it is for Evan Ingram, and I believe he is number 1, I don't know if Arden Key would not be number 2 for me. Jawan Taylor, I want back, but again, you have the fallback in Walker Little, who might be very, very good at right tackle. Do you have a fallback if you lose Arden Key? I don't know. I don't think you do have one on the roster right now. You'd probably need to draft one at some point. So the more pass rushers you have, the better off you're going to be. And with Arden Key, who's going to be 27 years old when the season starts, I know he only had 4.5 sacks, but he was much more disruptive than that. I hope the Jaguars do everything within their power to try and retain Arden Key. I'm going to do something within my power right now. We're givers here on Hacker After Dark. We're in for Baloo the rest of the week. We're glad you're with us here on a Thursday night edition. Coming up later on this year, I believe in the month of October, Jelly Roll Live, the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. We have a pair of tickets for you right now. All you have to do is call Dylan Denmark at 641-1010. Be caller number 4, and we will hook you up. A pair of tickets month of October, Jelly Roll Live at the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Caller 4 to 641-1010 right now. Coming up next, let's go to Gainesville. Zach Goodall, allgators.com. What on earth is going on with the Florida football program? They've lost 3 assistants in the last 36 hours. Is the sky falling, or is it maybe not as bad as it appears? We'll talk about all that. We'll talk Billy Napier and more with Zach Goodall, allgators.com. That's a part of Sports Illustrated. That's next on Hacker After Dark.
Join the 1010XL Podcast Network.
Okay, excellent show, everyone.
Now you can find all your favorite 1010XL podcasts in your platform of choice.
March is almost here, and that means March Madness. Perfect Rank Billiards is the spot to be when wanting to watch all the madness. Tons of TVs, pool tables for halftime enjoyment, shuffleboard and darts. Everything you need for a great time. Food specials while the games are on. Beer and liquor specials every day of the week. The tournament starts Thursday, March 16th, so gather your buds and come have some suds while watching some ball. Perfect Rank Billiards in Murray Hill, a great spot to watch sports.
Come to Bowden Eye for all your eye care needs. Hicken here. Did you know that dry eye disease affects up to 60 million Americans? Dry eye disease is known to progress. Dry eye disease is one of the most common but least diagnosed eye conditions doctors see in their patients. Many of us who have dry eye may not even feel it. At Bowden Eye and Associates, visit today for your personal consultation. Keeping the first coast focused. Bowden Eye and Associates. New location now open off County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
Score more savings at your home team Ag Pro. Right now, get a 3025 e-tractor with loader for $259 per month. Team up with us online at agproco.com to find the location nearest you. See dealer for detail. Offer ends 2/28/23, subject to approved credit. Some restrictions apply.
Here's Linda Beaver.
This month, Beaver Toyota and Beaver Chevrolet wants to show all our customers just how much we love them. How can we prove our love? Well, how about purchasing with a peace of mind? Every new vehicle comes with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty, and every certified pre-owned comes with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Plus, this month only, every lady who purchases a vehicle will receive a free $500 gas card. Free gallons for Valentine's Day? I love it. This month, love yourself and love your car. Head to Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville. We're here to wow you.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On February 23, 2019, Argentine soccer star Lionel Messi scores the 50th hat trick of his career as Barcelona wins 4-2.
Northeast Florida's highest-rated residential home electrical contractor is American Electrical, providing unsurpassed quality in Duval, St. Johns, Clay, and Nassau counties. No matter your electrical problem or project, large or small, American Electrical will get it done at a price that's right. High-quality electrician, that's who they are. Trust a company that's been on the First Coast for decades, proudly serving the community while being a big part of the community. Call American Electrical for all your electric needs at 737-7770. Wired right at a fair price.
Are you a mechanic with at least 2 years' experience working on diesels and tractors? Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services is looking for a mechanic to join our team. This position requires you to be at the office early, making sure our trucks get on the road. Having a CDL is a plus. Duck Rooter offers excellent weekly pay, a company work truck, health benefits, matching 401k, and more. To apply, please visit duckrooter.com. That's duckrooter.com and click on the careers page.
Equal opportunity employer.
Are you suffering from chronic joint pain like Heather?
I have terrible arthritis and have had it for quite a while, and I've gone to all kinds of doctors trying to figure out what to do, and everybody just said surgery, and surgery was months of rehab, and I didn't want to do that.
But then Heather discovered QC Kinetics, local medical professionals who specialize in natural biologic treatments, non-invasive solutions designed to repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints. And she absolutely loves the results.
I like to tell anybody who's suffering that there are options that are not steroids, that are not surgery. You owe it to yourself to find out about QC Kinetics and find out what they can do for you.
No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Discover QC Kinetics and learn more about natural biologic treatments with lasting results.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. Don't wait. Call QC Kinetics today, 904-274-5522.
Hello, Jacksonville. This is Greg McGarity, President and CEO of Gator Bowl Sports. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl game and events have been a Jacksonville staple for more than 75 years. We support more than 4,200 local youth annually through Gator Bowl charities. Gator Bowl Sports is a perfect way for local companies and individuals to get involved. We'd love to meet with you and talk about how you can join our team. If you'd like to learn more, contact us at 798-1700. 798-1700.
Hello, all you Jacksonville sports fans. Don here from Taco Lou. If you're in the mood for some great tacos, cold Dos Equis, and maybe even a sip of some fine tequila, then the Lou is calling your name. Come out to Jack's Beach and experience what many have dubbed the #1 taco in the 904. There are plenty of great taco joints in town, and we're proud to have been around for this long, and we have only you, the fine people of Jacksonville, to thank for helping us grow and become who we are today. Cheers to you, Jacksonville, and thank you from the Lou crew. Taco Lou in Jacksonville Beach.
David here with Royal Pest Services. That grass is waking up from its winter nap. Royal is close to applying products that help bring it out of that dormancy. Our granular aeration allows treatment to get to the root system. Visit RoyalPestServices.com to schedule a free estimate. It's grow time!
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now, another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, there's never a day where it seems news is lacking down at the University of Florida. Unfortunately, it's been a lot of bad news as of late. Patrick Toney, the latest piece of news, a defensive coordinator, a young coach, a good recruiter. The future appeared to be very bright for him 6 months ago in Gainesville. He might still have a bright future, but apparently now it's going to be in the state of Arizona as he leaves to take a job with the Arizona Cardinals in the National Football League. What happened? For the latest, let's go to Gainesville. Our guy Zach Goodall, allgators.com, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Zach, how we doing?
Doing well. It's certainly been hectic. I don't know what it is. I guess maybe Arizona is just kind of working with a very strict plan and deciding to hire coaches in bunches. They decided to pull both Florida guys at the same time, not just Patrick Toney, but by the sounds of it, tight ends coach William Piegler as well.
Yeah, that was weird. Again, two coaches on the same day, both leaving the Florida Gators to go to the Arizona Cardinals. You don't exactly see the link there, but let's begin, obviously, with Patrick Toney. Zach, what happened there? I mean, this was a guy that Gator fans were excited about. Billy Napier brought him to Gainesville with him from Louisiana, and it lasts 1 year, and he's gone. It's interesting to me.
Certainly. He was viewed as one of the up-and-comers in college football just a year ago. I mean, for the work he had done at Louisiana with Napier and in his previous stops. He had gotten interviews at a couple of other places. I think Baylor, for one, about a year ago. And I think the results were pretty clear. The defense did not turn around in ways that a lot of Florida fans expected it to. That being said, Napier is a huge fan. He's called Patrick Toney one of the more elite coaches that he's worked around. And I believe his quote was that he has worked around a lot of elite coaches. So this is someone that he had a lot of respect for. I'm not exactly sure what caused the division. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say it's a firing. It's a Toney taking a promotion because we don't know what his role is going to be. I would think that safeties, coaching safeties to some degree, because that's his background, is what he'd do with the Cardinals. But at the end of the day, he's leaving play calling duty. So there's a lot that we're still wondering here. But ultimately, I mean, when the Baylor job came open a few weeks ago, there were whispers that Toney could be involved there. It's not necessarily been a secret that there was the possibility he may not be in Gainesville for the long term. But, once it got past signing day and things had settled down, it seemed that at the very least he'd be here for another year. So it did come as a surprise today.
That's what's puzzling, Zach. It's not December 22nd, right? I mean, it's not even January 22nd. It's February 22nd. We are, 10 days, 14 days away from spring football really kicking off all over the country. And now Florida's defensive coordinator job, as you and I are talking right now, is open because of the Patrick Toney news. So what do you say to the timing of all this?
It's certainly interesting. Again, I would love to know what prompted it. And maybe it's as simple as Arizona just hired its head coach and came calling, and both Peagler and Tony saw an opportunity to go coach in the pros. It could be that simple. But it is, again, it's not something that we really see all that often. We've seen a structure with coaching changes now that, if they're getting fired, especially to save recruits, it's right after the early signing day or the national signing day. And now, as you mentioned it, Florida kicks off its spring camp on March 4th, and there are candidates that are emerging, I think, for both jobs, although there's been even strong reporting for the defensive coordinator job, but they have not finalized any hire as of the time we're having this conversation, and they're roughly, I think, 10 days out.
Zach Goodall, allgators.com, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Zach, tell me how off base I am. I've been making some calls today, been talking to some folks, and look, I don't think it was necessarily all the pressure, but Patrick Toney was very active on social media. Patrick Toney saw what was being said about him. Gator fans wanted him out last year. The defense is terrible. Replace Toney. Could the fans, quite frankly, to put it blunt, could the fans have maybe forced the hand a little bit and for Toney and said, all right, well, you don't like what I'm doing here, I'll go to greener pastures?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump to that conclusion necessarily, but Florida is well known to be a socially active fan base, and they can be hard to please. They have high expectations, and for good reason. They make it clear when those aren't being met. I wouldn't want to speak to Patrick Toney's instance for, specifically just because I don't know there, but you look back a year ago when Mike White was let go, or I don't even want to say let go. It was basically a mutual parting. It was clear that it was time for a change within Florida basketball itself, but also he wasn't enjoying his job when he had to get on Twitter and, go and look at recruits, interact with them, like their tweets or whatever. He probably came across a tweet every day saying, fire Mike White. I can't even imagine what it's got to be like to deal with. And I'm sure that Toney saw at least a couple of those tweets as well.
Zach, look, I mean, the sky's not falling, but you know how Gator fans are. We kind of just spoke to it. So far in 2023, Jaden Rashada bailed because of the NIL, and that was a horrible look. Now Patrick Toney essentially leaves in the middle of the night to go to Arizona. They didn't get anybody out of the portal they wanted at quarterback. They, quote, settled for Graham Mertz, who many people are calling Austin Appleby 2.0. I mean, you've lived in Jacksonville, man. You know how the Jacksonville fans are in relation to the Gators. Give them some positive news, because right now, Zach, it doesn't look like there is very much.
I mean, I get that perspective too. Again, this is not something Florida fans are used to. The last time they had consecutive losing seasons in the SEC was the 1950s. And Vanderbilt, a loss to Vanderbilt, secured that this year. What, from a UF fan's perspective, what is going on? But I think the biggest thing you can do, whether it's you take it optimistically or pessimistically, is you look at this roster and the drastic changes it's undergone. And if you have the hope, you put it into Napier, understanding and properly evaluating everyone he's brought in. Because this roster, I mean, I've not seen a college football roster flipped quite like the way Florida's has, at least in terms of quantity over the past year and a half. And I think if you want to pull good news from the coaching situation, again, I can't confirm whether this is a firing or their own choice to leave, but regardless, we see the report with Austin Armstrong being the potential candidate to replace Toney. You can at least have, I would think, a little bit of confidence in Napier that, he saw this was coming, or maybe he took initiative to make some changes one way or another. He seemed like he was prepared for this move. And that's something that I know Florida fans were upset with Dan Mullen for, that he didn't really have that initiative. When it came time to let John Hevesy go and Todd Grantham go, it was viewed as probably a year too late.
Zach Goodall, allgators.com, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Zach, look, Billy Napier is getting a lot of criticism. I don't know how warranted it is, and look, I'm never the defend the coach guy, but let's be honest. He was brought in to improve recruiting. He clearly has done that. He got a signed letter of intent from a 5-star quarterback in 2023. He's also gotten a verbal commitment from a 5-star quarterback in 2024 in DJ Lagway. Is it his fault the Rashada thing blew up? I don't know. Depends who you talk to on that. But he got the letter of intent. He went out there and recruited back-to-back 5-star quarterbacks, got one letter of intent, already has Lagway committed. That's what Gator fans wanted, right? They wanted to be in the recruiting game. They're in the recruiting game now. So to have this much criticism a year in, to me, quite frankly, is unfair to Billy Napier.
See, so many people, when it comes to recruiting, love to either suggest that coaches bypass the rules or that they should, because that's the area of college football recruiting we're in, that they need to, throw the bags at the kids, get involved in the NIL, all that kind of stuff. And Billy Napier, to his credit, has said this entire time that that's not how he operates. People don't really choose to believe that in any sense, but I think the Rashada circumstance is a perfect example of that being true. Again, you're right. He landed the 5-star, by our rankings, the number 10 player in the country at quarterback. That is a program-changing acquisition if he makes it to campus, and then he doesn't. And that's not – I think, especially with the law that was in place for coaches to not be able to get involved with NIL, I think that speaks to Napier's lack of involvement on that aspect. He got his part of the job done there. Now that we've seen that law change, maybe that'll change, and perhaps Napier will get involved in that aspect. But from the coaching perspective, from the recruiting side, and we see some losses now and then, they happen, and I think a lot of them can be attributed to Florida's NIL structure over the past year beyond Rashada, just some of the misses they had in Jacksonville, for example, and throughout the state. But ultimately, we have seen the improvement from years past. Even if they're not necessarily getting every 5-star that comes along, I think you see a lot more structure. The defensive back room, Florida's defensive backs, besides the occasional cornerback, have been just not up to standard in the past 5 years. And the first thing they do is they sign a defensive back class of 6 prospects. They did the same thing on the offensive line. They did it at wide receiver, linebacker. They did it in the transfer portal. And that's another aspect, is wherever they don't do it in high school, they've been doing it through the portal, really stacking new players at these positions. So time will tell what his being Napier and his coaching staff's evaluation. If they're really good at it, if they can scan out talent from anywhere, then Florida will turn itself around. And you have to give them a little credit for at least priding themselves on believing that will be the case.
Zach, final question. You said March 4th, spring camp begins. We know the quarterback room, only 3 scholarship guys in there right now. Max Brown, who I think is part of the baseball team. I don't even really know how much action he's going to get in the spring. Maybe you can enlighten us on that. But clearly the big two is Jack Miller and Graham Mertz. Is there a competition there, or is it clearly Graham Mertz's job?
I don't know why Graham Mertz would have come here if it weren't his job. Just because of the trajectory he was on at Wisconsin, he could have gone and found a starting job maybe at a lesser school, or maybe he had some other options, but bottom line is I don't think he was looking to go anywhere to be a backup. And there was an injury to Jack Miller. There was his time at Ohio State. It didn't really pan out. There's not exactly a ton of momentum going his way. So from my perspective, I think it has to be Mertz's job at this point. And you're right with Max Brown. He's actually impressed a bit in baseball. So at the very least, he'll be limited in some capacity. And then there are going to be 2 freshman walk-ons in attendance. So I don't really see where the competition stacks up to Mertz at this point, at least in terms of if you're looking for an experienced quarterback who's been there, done that in college football, he's got to be your guy of that bunch.
And I hate to say this begrudgingly, right, because Austin Appleby is a friend of the program. I've had him on many times. He's now in the coaching profession. He's a buddy. But people are calling Graham Mertz from the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Austin Appleby 2.0, who was from the Big Ten in Purdue. Is that fair? Is Graham Mertz an Austin Appleby clone, if you will, or could he potentially be better than that?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see him in this scheme because if I'm being totally honest, look, his resume is not that great. I think he's got a 1.4 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. He regressed statistically each year he was there, but that offense didn't really do him any favors. What was once a great rushing offense also regressed each year. And in particular, he had really impressive numbers throwing on play action. They just didn't use it much, which doesn't make sense with the way that run game used to operate. But even the game after Paul Chryst was fired, they went back to play action. I think Mertz threw 5 touchdowns again, the second time in his career that he's done that. So Florida's offense, comparatively at the very least, and this might be because of who they had at quarterback last year, was a pretty play-action strong offense. And I think if there's anything that could bring out a new, improved, consistent element of Mertz's game, that's exactly it. So, from fit perspective, I at least get it. For a bridge to get you in between where you're at now and your recruits coming in, he at the very least makes sense. But at the same time, I don't see the ceiling necessarily being that high.
Zach Goodall, allgators.com, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Zach, thank you for the time on short notice. We'll do it again during spring football, my man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Ryan.
He's big.
What kind of monster are you?
And he's big on the Jags.
3 times bigger than this.
Mike Dempsey.
What do you think? Well, what do you know?
10 to noon weekdays.
A lot smarter than I look.
On 1010XL.
Wholesale prices, premium service.
Captain Kevin here. This February, give your car the love it needs with Tire Outlet's $70 car care package. From an oil change, brake inspection, to a tire rotation and alignment check, Tire Outlet will give your ride the love it needs. Visit Tire Outlet to schedule your appointment today. Save now by shopping at TireOutlet.com.
Wholesale prices, premium service. Tire Outlet.
Did you know that all graduates of Local 234's apprenticeship program are licensed journeymen? That means all plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, and HVAC techs will have hundreds of hours of experience and have passed the Jacksonville City Licensed Journeyman exam. They're the best trained and safest skilled tradespeople in the industry. Don't leave yourself exposed to inadequate workmanship or even danger. Always hire a licensed journeyman. Local 234. Make the right connection. Equal opportunity employer.
You don't have to be a football star to get a signing bonus. The team at Republic Services needs your skills, and they're paying up to $5,000 for you to join the roster. You'll be joining a winner. As an essential business, the Republic Services trucks have not stopped rolling with hourly and weekly pay and better benefits and vacation packages than the rest of the league. Driver trainees, $1,000 sign-on bonus. CDL drivers, $3,000. Diesel mechanics, $5,000 bonus. Join the winning team at Republic Services today. Visit republicservices.com.
Equal opportunity employer.
If golf is your thing, you might want to check out Hidden Hills Golf Club. At Hidden Hills, we simply love the game, and we take great care of our golfing friends. Check us out at hiddenhillsgc.com. You'll be glad you did.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation. Light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to CarlsonDentalGroup.com. That's CarlsonDentalGroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Think mortgage rates are still super high? Think again. Rates have plummeted to 5-month lows. Hey, Prosser here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinancing you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you have way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month. Or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. Listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto, wipe out all those cards, close in about 14 days, and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. Call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero, start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Call Loan Pronto, 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
You will love your new windows and doors from Renewal by Andersen. For a limited time, buy 4 windows or patio doors and get the 5th free. Plus, no money down, no payments, and no interest for 18 months. This offer expires February 28th and restrictions apply. Renewal by Andersen, the official window and door replacement partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. A better way to a better window. Visit rbafla.com and call now. License number CGC 1527613.
The IRS has just received $80 billion in funding to hire 86,000 IRS agents. If you owe the IRS, now is the time to take action before the IRS comes after you or your business. There's no time to waste. Call J. David Tax Law for a no-cost consultation at 904-507-4777. That's 904-507-4777. Or visit jdavidtaxlaw.com. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away.
Looking for a bargain on cool stuff? Beach's Jewelry and Pawn has unclaimed items ready to be, well, claimed. Tons of cool stuff to choose from. Just come into Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach, ask for Chuck, and start the bargain. Beach'sJewelryandPawn.com.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach. This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is, and we're glad you're with us on a Thursday evening, 1010XL 92.5 FM. All right. We have 12 Hacker After Darks left until free agency, Monday, March 13th. There are 12 unrestricted Jaguar free agents that will hit the market as of now, and one restricted free agent. So every night, we'll give you one of the guys that's going to hit the market. Tonight, we'll quickly give you two. And those two are the restricted free agent JaMycal Hasty and defensive tackle Corey Peters. Corey Peters unrestricted. He can sign anywhere he wants beginning Monday, March 13th, or at least agree to terms. You don't sign until Wednesday, the 15th. As it comes to JaMycal Hasty, I'm fine with him returning as a Jaguar. Do I want him necessarily as the backup to Travis Etienne? I don't know about that. But there is no doubt that when they signed JaMycal Hasty at the end of training camp last year, I didn't know much about JaMycal Hasty. And he came in, he performed well in the time that he was given. Long touchdown runs, good replacement when Etienne went down, particularly the Dallas game, I believe, right? When he had to come in when Etienne got hurt. I would love to see JaMycal Hasty back in a Jaguar uniform. I think he will, because he's a restricted free agent. The Jaguars would have the right to match any offer that he gets. But I'd be fine with JaMycal Hasty finding his way on the roster in 2023. Corey Peters is a little different. I appreciate everything Corey Peters did, but he's 34 years old. You know, what could he give you on the interior defensive line? He gave you a lot last year, more so than I thought he could probably give you at that age. But another year, some more wear and tear. If Corey Peters is back in Jacksonville, it better be for a 1 year, not veteran minimum, but pretty close. I don't know how much action he'll get on the open market, quite frankly. But I do thank Corey Peters for what he did for the team, because he was a contributor in that 6-game winning streak. No question about that. Free agency 18 days away. The draft a little over 2 months away. In fact, the NFL Scouting Combine next week. Hard to believe that. Next week in Indianapolis. Ryan Fowler, one of our guys from the Draft Network. Let's talk Anthony Richardson. Let's talk Jaguars. Let's talk Combine and more. Ryan Fowler, the Draft Network, next on a Thursday night in Jacksonville, Florida. It's Hacker After Dark.
The Players is coming.
It's huge for all of us.
If you can't make it to the Players, let 1010XL bring the Players to you with Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Leaderboard updates.
That's a beauty.
Brought to you by J. David Tax Law, Taco Lou, and Renewal by Anderson.
Seeking social media specialist in Jacksonville, Florida. Increase brand awareness through the effective use of social media. Create short and long-form content, such as blogs and video scripts. Set and measure key performance indicators, KPIs, for social media campaigns. Must have a bachelor's degree or foreign equivalent in journalism, communications, marketing, or journalism and media production, and 1 year of experience for marketing, video production, and direction for business and social media. Mail resume to Bookkeeping and Accounting of Florida, Inc. Attention, J. Moody, 9905 Old St. Augustine Road, number 501. Jacksonville, Florida, 32257.
Hey, poker fans, catch all the exciting action happening this month at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and St. Augustine. We're paying out over $600,000 in high hand promotions. Don't miss out on Table Share Tuesdays at Best Bet Jacksonville and the Big Game Special on February 12th and $1,000 high hands on February 25th at all 3 locations. Experience the best at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and St. Augustine. Must be 18 years or older to play. Go to bestbetjacks.com for details.
Your First Place Jacksonville Icemen are home this Friday and Saturday for Military Appreciation Weekend. Join us as we honor men and women who have served our country. The family fun begins Friday at 7 when the Icemen face division rival the Atlanta Gladiators. Then Saturday, the Icemen battle the North Division's Worcester Railers at 7. Tickets starting as low as $15 at Ticketmaster or JacksIcemen.com or call 904-602-PUCK. Icemen hockey is lights out.
Mike Dempsey for Dandy Foods, and happy to report that Dandy has brand new goodies out there, only available at select gate locations. 4 delicious new lunch items to choose from: a hot roast beef and provolone, an Italian combo that'll melt in your mouth, spicy buffalo chicken, or a big old juicy 100% beef cheeseburger. They're all served on fresh ciabatta bread, baked locally and delivered daily, just as you'd expect from the folks that bring you fresh, never frozen goodness.
Got that hometown flavor creeping up on you, yeah.
Join XL Primetime live at the newest Famous Quick Lube on Beach at Penman Road, Friday from noon to 3. Hang out at the grand opening with auto service discounts, giveaways, and free food and drinks.
Hello, Florida. It's me, Emmitt Smith. Yeah, that Emmitt Smith.
Florida's very own football legend Emmitt Smith with a special message for people here who suffer from chronic joint pain.
Here's one thing we can all agree on, that we are a little older and joint pain is no fun. But I have some great news. QC Kinetics is here with the latest advances in regenerative medicine. Treatments that can get you moving again.
Got pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or back? QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. Non-surgical, all-natural advanced treatments using natural biologics from your own body, delivering lasting results.
QC Kinetics is right here helping people get lasting relief with no downtime, no meds, and best of all, no surgeries.
So take it from Emmitt Smith, who knows joint pain thanks to some of his glory days right here in Florida.
We're on the same team when we're talking about joint pain relief, and that's QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Spilled your milkshake? Quick, the quicker picker upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand. So you can get back to your milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Bounty, the quicker picker upper.
Waste Management is paying a $5,000 bonus to CDL drivers and heavy truck mechanics for jobs in Jacksonville, Green Cove Springs, Callahan, and St. Augustine. Apply online at WM.com/careers.
Equal opportunity employer.
Here's Linda Beaver.
This month, Beaver Toyota and Beaver Chevrolet wants to show all our customers just how much we love them. How can we prove our love? Well, how about purchasing with a peace of mind? Every new vehicle comes with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty, and every certified pre-owned comes with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Plus, this month only, every lady who purchases a vehicle will receive a free $500 gas card. Free gallons for Valentine's Day? I love it. This month, love yourself and love your car. Head to Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville. We're here to wow you.
Yo, yo, yo! Are you looking for the lowest price on car insurance? ET here for Australia Car Insurance. Call 1-800-CAR-INSURANCE today. Australia is your quick and easy alternative to pay less for car insurance. Switch and save money. Call 1-800-CAR-INSURANCE today.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now. Another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line, brought to you by the accident attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The NFL Scouting Combine next week. Boy, can you believe that? Next week in Indianapolis, where over 300 draft-eligible prospects will show out for all the scouts, coaches, and GMs in the league. And then after that, pro days and the NFL Draft will be here before you know it. With that, Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network. He's one of our draft guys here on 1010XL, and he's always kind enough to join us here in the city of Jacksonville. Ryan, how we doing?
I'm good, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on as always.
Hey, Ryan, thank you, man. Before we get to the draft specific, want to talk Anthony Richardson, the quarterbacks, and more with you. You're very close to the Washington Commander football team. You worked there. You covered them for many years. And, boy, what a splash. Last week, Eric Bieniemy leaving Kansas City and going to Washington. There's obviously reasons as to why he did, which we'll get into in a moment. But what's been the reaction among the Washington fan base about a guy like Eric Bieniemy joining Ron Rivera's staff?
Yeah, the city is buzzing, Ryan. It's you look back to the individuals and the faces and the talent that were in Washington. You look back to that 2013 staff, and it's been well documented. Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel. Each one of those individuals had time in Washington, never got the opportunity to potentially head the roster. And with Eric Bieniemy now as Ron Rivera's right-hand man, not just with the full reins of the offense, but as assistant head coach, this is an individual in the building that has a modern offensive mind that they've needed for a long time. The offense got stagnant over their last 3 years with Scott Turner. The skill sets are all in place. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They're going to have a new quarterback under center, most likely in Sam Howell. And their RPO-based offense that they ran at Kansas City translates well with what Sam Howell did at North Carolina. The running game with Brian Robinson. Meshing all of those skill sets is what Eric Bieniemy did so well in Kansas City with the talent that he had. Not just Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and obviously having Patrick Mahomes under center matters, but being able to have not just your pillars of your offense, but to take those skill sets and be uniquely different from an architectural standpoint each and every week to the defenses that you face has DC just buzzing right now for the name that he is.
Ryan, I don't understand why this is so hard for people to understand. I see national TV shows, guys arguing, national radio shows. Why do you leave Mahomes to go to Washington? Look, Eric Bieniemy wants to be a head coach. It's been documented time and time again, and for whatever reason, working under Andy Reid, he has not been given that opportunity. And at some point, if you want to be a head coach, you got to make your move. So now he goes to Washington with a defensive-minded head coach in Ron Rivera. He'll get much more credit if that Washington offense flourishes, and he'll get much more credit for developing a young guy that's not named Patrick Mahomes. So is it a chance? Is it a risk? Absolutely. But the end goal here is for Bieniemy to be a head coach, and under these circumstances, Ryan, I thought it was the right move for him to make.
Absolutely. It's funny listening to as far as Eric Bieniemy trying to prove himself. He doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. He's well-deserved and really, from a head coaching perspective, well overdue for the man that deserves an opportunity. And there's been rumors flying around Washington with Ron Rivera potentially retiring and if all things go south towards the middle portions of this year, well, Eric is going to be that guy that's going to be the head coach in the near future. And that's why he came to Washington for that opportunity. Again, not to prove himself. We know what he is. We know what he is as an individual, as an offensive mind in 2023, where most points always wins since the dawn of football, and someone that can consistently modify what he does to the players in place. And going to Washington where say, hey, now this is a spot where I can be a head coach in the near future. I know what I do well. The skill sets are in place for me to flourish. And like you said, a young quarterback in Sam Howell that has a lot of talent. They got a lot of value out of him early in the 5th round. What better spot to be in for a guy that could be a head coach and a franchise-altering addition for this franchise that hasn't had a lot of positives in the last 2-3 decades.
Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network. Really quick, you piqued my interest. That's fascinating. So there is talk up there that Bieniemy could almost be a coach in waiting if/when Ron Rivera calls it a career?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's a few of the rumors that I've heard out of that building, yes.
Wow. All right, there you go. And finally, you mentioned Sam Howell. We're familiar with him from his time in the ACC at North Carolina. Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, are they both gone and it's Sam Howell's job? How will that work out in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, the enemy came to Washington with high interest in working with Sam Howell, things I've heard out of Ashburn. And Carson Wentz will be cut. He will be gone, save money there. Taylor Heineke, he's gonna win an opportunity somewhere. You look around the league and the individuals that got opportunities, from David Blau to Trace McSorley, Tyler Huntley, Josh Dobbs. Taylor Heineke's right in that bucket as well. And I don't think he's going to take a pay cut, if you will, because he's going to get his money to be a backup in Washington. They have Jake Fromm in the building as a younger guy that has a similar skill set, if you will, to Sam Howell. If they want to bring in a potential veteran just to work behind him or draft somebody late, which I know we'll get into. But Sam Howell is the guy working in to week one as we sit here in mid-February.
Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network. Ryan, you and I haven't talked since all the All-Star games, the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, etc. In your conversations, things you've seen since the Senior Bowl and those other type games, give us a couple of guys that have gone up draft boards as we get ready for the Combine in Indy next week.
Absolutely. I'll start with wide receiver Michael Wilson from Stanford. Was an absolute stud down at the Senior Bowl. And I can't say enough. I have to start with Michael as far as a character individual. He is somebody, whatever team he lands in, is going to be a leader in the locker room from day one and in the community as someone that you want on your team for the next 5 to 10 years. Absolutely overwhelmingly impressive as far as who he is as an individual. Remember, I talked with him after a practice down in Mobile. He dropped one pass during the day, told me he went in his hotel room, took a tennis ball, and caught the ball off the wall each hand 300 times. Little things like that. Yeah. From a work ethic perspective, Ryan, that matters, right? We had the big logo on his helmet as far as being a Stanford guy, but he's been rising up draft boards. He was a late day 3 guy heading into this process. He shined down in Mobile. Right now, he probably won't get out of early portions of day 2. On the opposite side of the ball, Darius Rush, corner from South Carolina, wide receiver convert, 33-inch arms. He's got some technicality to work with his game as far as just really understanding the position. But you look at the athleticism, the ball skills, that's what matters. Creating that turnover margin for a team to get the ball back. In Jacksonville's perspective, back to Trevor Lawrence and that high-powered offense that's only going to continue to improve as we move down the line. So those are 2 guys especially, Michael Wilson from Stanford, a wideout, and Darius Rush, corner from South Carolina.
Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Ryan, at the Combine next week, a lot of eyes will be on Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson. You know, it's curious, and I'm really interested in your thoughts as a guy that does this every day. You could talk to one scout one day, and they love Anthony Richardson. You could talk to a scout the next day, and they think he's not a first-rounder. He is all over the board right now. What is your opinion going into the Combine of Anthony Richardson?
He is one of the most electric prospects, athletes, turn of the draft, in my opinion, in some time. And, again, you talk to scouts and execs across the league, and they think the same thing. But then there's that discourse. But we see guys that are big, strong, fast. They don't last long on boards. And last year, and it's the corners room with the Seahawks taking Tariq Woolen in the 5th round, which was obviously still a joke. But with Anthony, he is someone that is going to be so talked about heading up to February, March, into April. The discourse with him is going to be tiring because you look at what you have at the foundational aspect of what he is as a quarterback. Big, strong arm, and the potential is through the roof with his legs and what he can do in between the ears. Because I don't think we give him enough credit as far as his processing ability and be able to go through his progressions the last few years at Florida. And I think that's something that we need to take into account with young talents coming into the league because not everything is perfect in year one. We've gotten spoiled with the Justin Herberts, the Mahomeses, the Burrows of the world that come in and don't have that grace period, those speed bumps from the first few years in the league. Anthony Richardson has as much potential as any quarterback in football right now to reach that all-pro level. It's just about landing a lot in that right situation, right offense, and to have the right voice in his ear, just like with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, to reach that performance ceiling.
Ryan, how do you stack up the quarterbacks? Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. Do you have a 1 through 4 there going into the Combine?
Yeah, I'll go 1-2. And that's clear for me with Bryce Young at 1 and C.J. Stroud at 2. There's again, the size concerns are there with Bryce Young, and inability to even see over the offensive line, but you watch him succeed in the SEC. And when I think back to my discourse as far as, ups and downs of players in the SEC of really seeing what they're going to do with the next level. And I think about Devonta Smith and the conversation of him coming out as far as being too skinny, not going to succeed in the NFL, can't hold up, doesn't have the body armor. Well, Bryce Young kind of has those similar concerns, but at the quarterback position. But you watch him succeed. You watch him win the Heisman. You watch what he does intangibly, the leader that he is, his ability to create off script, his footwork, his ability to deliver from every arm angle. Those are the types of things that win at the next level. So Bryce Young is my clear number one quarterback. And then C.J. Stroud, watching him all season long this year and last, it's so impressive between the ears. I love guys that win up top, above the shoulders, before they ever try to win with their arms and legs. Is there talent there? I would like CJ to even be in an offense that uses his legs a little bit more as we move into the first few years in the league. Depends what offense he lands in, of course. But watching him just deliver in his feet, and again, winning between the ears, something is, with Ohio State, you have all the 5 stars on the outside, the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, Emeka Egbuka, Harrison Jr. and Egbuka, probably first rounders next year. And we all know about JSN. But Bryce Young, number 1, CJ Stroud, number 2 for me as my top 2 quarterbacks. And I don't think that will change heading into April.
Final moments here with Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network. Ryan, here in Jacksonville, we've taken notice of Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud because there's a better chance than not that one or even both guys are going to end up in the AFC South, right? With Houston having the number 2 pick, Indianapolis the 4 pick, both of those teams needing a quarterback with brand new head coaches. Are there player comps for the folks here in Jacksonville to think about? Is there a guy in the NFL, past or present, that you would compare Bryce Young to, and the same thing for C.J. Stroud?
For me, Bryce Young reminds me a lot of Drew Brees, just he's more overall athletic than Drew is. And I hate making comparisons for guys that are, just strictly just shorter guys. But you have to, right? And player comps are always fun, but I think Bryce Young is a unique individual in what he offers in his skill set because we really haven't seen him before in the league, right? Kyler Murray's an extremely athletic guy, but I like Bryce Young strictly as a passer. I do, more than Kyler coming out of Oklahoma. For C.J. Stroud, I don't have a player comp for C.J. Stroud. I think he's unique as well. I think his ability to have not just a rocket arm, but the accuracy to deliver it 50 yards into a bucket, and then the legs. We haven't seen his legs a ton. He was mainly a pocket passer at Ohio State, sitting in the pocket, just delivering with DeJuan Jones on his right side and Paris Johnson keeping him clean at left tackle. And there are obviously the receivers on the outside that were able to consistently separate. So I don't have a player comp right now for C.J. Stroud. I think, again, he's a unique individual, just like Bryce is. But biggest thing is for Jacksonville, continuing to add defensive guys that can get after these young quarterbacks because all these offenses around the AFC South are going to continue to lean on the Damian Pierces, the Jonathan Taylors, the Derrick Henrys in the ground game, boosting those guys in the middle. You got some nice linebackers to work with. They're going to have young quarterbacks there. They're going to want to sling it around a little bit, of course, but bolstering up front is going to help Jacksonville from a defensive perspective, however many rookie quarterbacks end up in the AFC South this year.
Ryan, and that's a good point. As we begin to wrap up here with you, final question. When it comes to Jacksonville, look, in years past, it was very easy for us, right? With the Jaguars had the number 1 pick in the draft to really pinpoint what they were going to do. Now they're picking 25th. In your mock draft work and your study there at the Draft Network, what's a quick thought from you on what Jacksonville may need position-wise going into late April?
Yeah, talks about wide receiver. I don't see that happening. Calvin Ridley coming into town. I know Marvin's going to walk. He may sign a cheap deal to come back. We will see if he goes elsewhere. But for me, it starts up front and it starts in the corners room. And my eyes turn to Cam Smith, the corner from South Carolina. I know I mentioned Darius Rush. He was their CB2 for the Gamecocks this year. But Cam Smith is an absolute physical, impressive talent on the outside. Just a dog. And I love guys on the outside. They're just physically overwhelming and take offense when receivers win a rep against them. He's competitive in the run game. Teams want to force defenses to play inside out. They force linebackers to cover, and they force corners to tackle. Cam Smith has no issue doing both obviously in coverage and man in zone, and then blowing you up in the line of scrimmage and knocking your chin strap off. I think Jacksonville would benefit from having a guy on the outside like that, opposite of Tyson Campbell, being physical, again, in man, in zone, and adding that type of culture at the roof of your defense to where we look back over the years, those physical types of defenders, both in the safeties and corners room. So a guy, Cam Smith, throw him into that Jacksonville defense, another young set of fresh legs in that secondary. Cam Smith is the target for me if I'm sitting there late on day one for Jacksonville.
It is mock draft season. I know a lot of people love the DraftNetwork.com's draft simulator. I'm included in that. And you can check out Ryan Fowler's terrific work there at the DraftNetwork.com. Ryan, enjoy the Combine. Let's chat afterwards as we get ever so closer to the NFL Draft. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much as always, Ryan.
We found the computer outlet, sir.
Plug in. No static ever. Download the free 1010XL app for Apple and Android devices and take us with you wherever you go.
Don't miss the Players' Championship March 7th through 12th at TPC Sawgrass. Invite your friends and family to enjoy the ultimate fan experience, complete with bites from your favorite local restaurants and front row access to the PGA Tour's best players. While on site, be sure to visit the expanded PGA Tour fan shop to stock up on this year's championship gear. Secure your spot at the iconic stadium course today. Tickets and parking passes are on sale now at theplayers.com.
Hi, flying Jacko here, sports fans, and believe it or not, Woody's Barbecue's name, image, and likeness value is zooming. Woody's Barbecue has the fallingest off-the-bone ribs and chicken, the moistiest turkey and pork, and the bestest French fries and vegetables. In fact, Woody's has been doing it for over 41 years. For lunch or dinner, the name is Woody's Barbecue.
At Woody's Barbecue, it's what we do.
Let's eat.
Why is it so important for victims of accidents to call a lawyer right away? Because lawyers need to do things like interview witnesses while memories are still fresh, collect evidence before it's often destroyed, and to make initial contact with the insurance company so you don't have to worry about it. Why postpone securing legal representation? If an accident is causing you problems, call me, Eddie Farah. I want to hear about it. Farah and Farah, 396-5555. Offices, Jacksonville.
Honda has done it again with their all-new 2023 lineup for SUVs. Passport, Pilot, HR-V, CR-V, and the popular CR-V Hybrid. We have SUVs for any budget. Visit your local Honda dealer. We're dealing.
This is Denny Thompson. Join me for the Gator Bites podcast presented by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists with new episodes every Wednesday. Subscribe and listen by searching for 1010XL Florida Gators podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or TuneIn.
Duck Rooter is the only master septic contractor in Northeast Florida, and we want to help you protect your septic system. Think about this. What would happen to your car if you never change the oil? Septic systems are no different and should be pumped at least every 3 years. Lack of maintenance is the #1 reason for septic system failure. Call Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services today to schedule your pumping.
When you're stuck, call the Duck. 904-862-6769.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
If you'd like to spend your summer with the Jumbo Shrimp, consider attending their job fair, March 11th. Register at jackshrimp.com.
The Tom Coughlin J Fund helps families battling childhood cancer, and there are ways you can help. Go to tcjfund.org.
The Hope Springs Eternal Gala to support Malavia Washington Youth Foundation is March 23rd. If you would like to help empower youth to take control of their stories, visit mailwashington.com.
Caddyshack Ranch provides a safe, loving, and forever home to endangered big cats. Caddyshack, on the north side of Jacksonville, has helped lions, tigers, and endangered animals for 30 years. Learn how you can visit or help at caddyshackranch.org.
There's a critical need for all blood types. Please consider donating at a local blood donation center.
If you're involved in a community event and you'd like us to help spread the word, find out how at 1010XL.com.
Hi, I'm Chip Green from V for Victory. We are thankful to the players for supporting our mission of supporting all local families battling cancer with services that relieve some of the everyday burdens they experience while in treatment. 12 days to go.
Think mortgage rates are still super high? Think again. Rates have plummeted to 5-month lows. Hey, Prosser here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinancing you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you have way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month. Or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. Listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto, wipe out all those cards, close in about 14 days, and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the fours. Call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero, start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Call Loan Pronto, 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
If it's time to upgrade your old fireplace, then trust in CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Tour their local showroom and find the perfect heat and glow gas or electric fireplace. For the experts in indoor and outdoor living, visit CSSFireplaces.com.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-7473. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now, another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. NBA All-Star Weekend in the rearview mirror, the trade deadline in the rearview mirror, and beginning Thursday night, it'll be a mad sprint to the finish. NBA teams have roughly 25 games or so remaining in their regular seasons. Brian Teport is one of our guys covering the NBA for Bleacher Report and Forbes, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Brian, how we doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Ryan?
Brian, we're good. All right, Mac McClung. Saturday night, the slam dunk contest. Brian, it was something to watch, man. What were your thoughts?
You know, I wasn't surprised because I went to Georgetown. So Mac McClung went to Georgetown for 2 years and then transferred after his sophomore season. So I've known about this kid, for 5 years now. Knew he was an incredible dunker coming out of high school. Like, that's how he kind of came to fame. So I knew what he was capable of. I don't necessarily know that I expected that type of showing out of him, but I knew he was an awesome dunker. He's been an awesome dunker for a long time. And frankly, I hope he's got a lifetime invite to the dunk contest because he really saved that weekend.
I'll tell you, Brian, was it Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins? No. Was it Vince Carter? No. Was it Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine? Now I think you're getting into the conversation. I mean, to me, what Mac McClung did on Saturday night is probably among, the top 6-7 dunk performances of all time in that contest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, what you referenced, is probably the last really memorable one, but I would imagine we look back 5 years from now and we remember this one either as, Mac McClung's first of many dunk titles, or hopefully, or, the one time that this G Leaguer came out of nowhere and shocked everyone.
It was fun to watch. There is no question about that. Brian Teport of Forbes and Bleacher Report talking NBA here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Brian, you and I haven't talked since one of the more active trade deadlines we've seen in quite some time, from Russell Westbrook getting voided out in Utah, going to the Clippers, D'Angelo Russell going to the Lakers, and then, of course, Kyrie Irving to Dallas, Kevin Durant to Phoenix. What a trade deadline. What were your thoughts, and what, in your opinion, were the one or two biggest moves that were made?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to start with Kevin Durant. It's very, very rare for a top 5 player in the league to be traded at all, much less mid-season. I can't even remember the last time we've had a trade of that magnitude during the middle of the season. The writing was kind of on the wall after the Kyrie trade, and I wrote about it at Forbes as soon as his trade request, before he even got traded. I said, the Nets should be moving into seller mode. And, to their credit, they did. I thought they would wait with KD until the offseason because, I figured they'd probably want to know the order of the 2023 draft. Not that I think any team would be willing to give up the number 1 overall pick, even for KD. But, maybe if they could get 3rd pick, 4th pick, whatever, plus, however else much they can get from the team they ended up getting. But, Phoenix had a really compelling offer, 4 first-round picks, a future pick swap, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. Like, that's a lot of stuff for Kevin Durant. So I don't blame the Nets for saying yes to that without, okay, we're throwing away our shot at, like, the number 3 pick in this draft. That's fine because we got plenty of other stuff in that trade. Phoenix now, we'll see when Kevin Durant returns. Sounds like it should be sooner than later. I think you have to put them certainly in the tier with Memphis and Denver as some of the top threats to come out of the West. So I think that's, that was probably the single move that has the biggest impact on this year's title race. I'm still just not buying the Mavericks. I mean, we saw Luka last year can single-handedly carry them to the conference finals, so maybe I'm just too down on them, but their defense is just not very good with Luka, Kyrie, and Christian Wood all on the floor together. So, if I could short them, I would. I think the Lakers are actually really interesting now. Not only the acquisition of D'Angelo Russell, but they got Malik Beasley, they got Jared Vanderbilt, they got Rui Hachimura from the Wizards a couple weeks back. All of a sudden, I was watching them, I guess, against the Pelicans the other night, and you're watching their second unit, and you're like, oh my God, they have like actual NBA rotation players even on their bench now. What is this? This is the team I've been watching for 50 games. So, they've got some work to do to get into the play-in tournament, but I'm telling you, if they get in, Denver, Memphis, or Phoenix, or Clippers, whichever team ends up as the 1 or 2 seeds in the West, they will not be excited to see the Lakers in the first round.
Brian, I want to get more into the trade deadline, but while we're talking about the Lakers, something struck me that I heard, and maybe you can put this rumor to bed, or maybe you can, ignite it a little further. There's a rumor going around that a lot of these teams are accumulating as many first-round picks as they can in the next 3, 4, and 5 years for when Bronny James gets into the draft, because they know what that'll mean if they get him to team him with his father from a marketing and a money standpoint. Is there anything to that?
I would be surprised. Like, I don't think, from what I know of Bronny, I'm not a draft expert or anything like that, but it sounds like he's more of a late first round, early second round prospect at the moment, rather than like no-brainer number 1 overall pick. And I don't think teams would draft him so much higher than his skill level or talent level would otherwise indicate, just to get like a year or two of LeBron, especially at that point. It's going to be, age 39, 40, 41 LeBron. So I don't necessarily know it's that. I think they're more loading up for who's the next disgruntled star that wants out? Who's the next Kevin Durant that wants out? Is it, Luka Doncic? Is it Karl Anthony Towns? We've seen Donovan Mitchell this past offseason, Rudy Gobert. Like, it takes now, 3, 4 first-round picks to get most of these guys. We even saw it for DeJounte Murray. So I think that's probably more the motivation. It's just teams are loading up for the next superstar trade whenever it comes.
Couple more for Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes, talking NBA with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Brian, I love the NBA. I am a diehard, passionate Orlando Magic fan. And look, I wasn't losing any sleep about the Mo Bamba trade, but that's just one example where literally that was a get rid of the contract trade, right? They got nothing for that except they got the money off their books. They got Pat Beverly in theory, and then they bought him out of that deal. We talked about Russell Westbrook getting traded to Utah. He got bought out. He now goes to the Clippers. I mean, it happens all the time, but that's not good for the league, right? I mean, they can't like seeing that as much as they're seeing it.
If I might be misremembering, but I thought the Magic also got a second-round pick or 2 second-round picks in that deal. So you can correct me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely the motivation from Orlando's side, is we'll take on a little bit more money if you're willing to give us something extra in return. I don't think the league is too bothered by it, since we'll see if Westbrook is the rare exception, or I don't think Pat Bev is going to swing the title race this year, since the Bulls are on the outside of the play-in right now. If a Reggie Jackson, who ended up in Denver, it's very rare for these buyout guys to like have such a big impact that you have to worry about this kind of thing, like swinging the title race single-handedly. So I think the league is probably fine with it, honestly.
I want to end with Orlando, Brian. Before we get there, let's look at both conferences. We talked about the West a little earlier. Let's finish that thought. Right now, Denver looks like the clear front runner, yet they'll have instances where they go to Orlando and they lose like they did a couple of weeks ago, so who really knows what to believe there. Do you believe it is Denver or, with Durant now in Phoenix, are they the front runner once he begins to play there on the court?
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver deserves the title for now. We'll see what Phoenix looks like once KD debuts. I mean, they don't have a ton of time to figure it out. They've only got, 2 months before the playoffs start, whereas Denver, especially like Jokic, Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon now have been playing together for a while. So they'll definitely have continuity working for them. With that said, Kevin Durant is arguably like the most malleable superstar in the NBA. I have zero concerns about his fit in Phoenix. If anything, it's like hard for me to fathom how you even stop that offense, because he, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul are all so good at, mid-range, around the rim, 3-point, doesn't matter. They're all 3-level scorers. So I don't know how you stop that offense, and I could very easily see, them putting Jokic in particular in some trouble defensively. But, Denver's got KCP. Denver has Aaron Gordon. It's got a couple of Bruce Brown off the bench. Like, it's got some weapons to throw at Phoenix. So I think, with all due respect to the Clippers, the Grizzlies, the Lakers, even the defending champion Warriors, Denver and Phoenix, I think, are probably the two best teams, and I really hope we do get to see them in a series.
And it is crazy. You look at the West, I think something like number 4 seed and number 11 seed are separated by like 3 games or something right now. It's absolutely insane. Brian, to the East, is it Boston? And if it's not Boston, who would it be? Milwaukee, Philadelphia? There seems to be a lot of good teams in the East. It just appears Boston right now, when healthy, is probably the best team.
Yeah, I think Boston is the best team in the NBA this year. That's not to say they're definitely going to win a title. We'll see what happens. We'll see who really, it comes down to who's healthy in April, May, and June more than anything. But if everyone is fully healthy, I like Boston. They just have, not only is Jason Tatum, if not for Jokic and Embiid and Giannis, like Tatum would be one of the front runners for MVP this year. He's having a career year. Jaylen Brown's having a career year. Joe Mazzulla, despite taking over under some turbulent circumstances in September, has done an incredible job with them. They can really just play. They're so malleable. You can play big with Horford and Robert Williams. They just added Mike Muscala at the trade deadline, which, compared to Kevin Durant, is not going to draw a ton of headlines, but he offers them something different in their front court than they had before. They can go small with Marcus Smart, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon. I don't see any weaknesses on the Celtics, whereas the Bucks offense can bog down at times. The Sixers transition defense is terrible, and their backup center is still a question. So I think those 3 are definitely, the 3 strongest teams in the East. I think Cleveland is probably the only other team I could see even having a realistic shot of getting out of the East this year. But I think it's very likely going to be one of Boston, Milwaukee, or Philly.
Brian Toporek of Forbes and Bleacher Report. Brian, leave us with this. The Orlando Magic. Look, they're probably a year away. They had so many injuries early on. I don't think they're going to be able to catch up to get in the play-in situation. They might. It's going to be a tough putt. But I got to tell you, watching these young guys with Banchero and Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter, all the guards from Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Markelle Fultz, and with the knowledge that with Chicago playing like they're playing, Orlando owns that pick. It's top 4 protected, but Orlando could have 2 lottery picks to go with this young roster they already have. Am I crazy to think that Orlando is building something pretty fierce that the NBA is going to have to deal with for a long time?
Not at all. I'm writing something for Forbes about it right now. It'll probably come out early next month. I think their rebuild is arguably ahead of schedule. I think hitting on Wagner in particular, and then really the Vucevic trade just worked out so unbelievably
it
well
was
for the Magic.
terrible for Chicago. Just awful.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue, moving forward right now, you'd probably rather just have Wendell Carter than Vucevic straight up, much less the 2 first-round picks that Chicago also included in that trade. So, sometimes that's all it takes. You hit on one pick, you hit on one trade, you get the number 1 overall pick, you hit on that. Like, all these dominoes start to fall into place, and now, everyone else on the team can kind of be in roles that better suit them. So, Markelle Fultz doesn't necessarily need to be the number 1 scoring option, or Jalen Suggs or Cole Anthony, whatever. They can be more complementary guys. Getting Jonathan Isaac back. I mean, there were questions after 2 years off how he would look. He's looked great, especially defensively. Like, before he got hurt, he had Defensive Player of the Year caliber upside. So, there will come a time where they're going to have to start making some tough decisions about some of these guys. But frankly, they've done an incredible job of signing these guys, a lot of them, to very reasonable contracts. So it's not like what's happening in Atlanta, where they're having to basically salary dump some guys just to get out of the tax. I don't see that being an issue for Orlando, at least the next few years. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm intrigued to see if they can make it to the play-in this year, but I think playoffs are a very realistic goal for them next year.
And I'll tell you, every year it was, you get Mo Bamba, you just miss out on the top 4. It was a 4-guy draft. You get, Jalen Suggs, and you miss out on the top 3 guys or 4 guys in that draft. But they hit on Wagner, and the fact is they've hit a home run with Banchero, right? The Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren talk, that was all fun and well, but clearly Banchero looks like a stud right now.
Yeah, I mean, he is the clear Rookie of the Year front runner. Even, God forbid, he gets hurt tomorrow, misses the rest of the season, I think he probably still wins Rookie of the Year. He's just so perfect for what Orlando needed. They needed that franchise centerpiece, number 1 scorer. Jabari Smith is going to be a very good NBA player as well, but that's just not his game. So it makes total sense that Orlando swung on the upside rather than the safe pick. And so far, it's paid off very handsomely for them.
Brian Toporek, you can follow him at Forbes and Bleacher Report. He is certainly one of our guys here on 1010XL when it comes to talking about the NBA. Brian, know you're busy, man. Thank you as always. We'll do it again soon.
Of course, anytime. Thanks always, Brian.
And thank you to my guy Brian Toporek of Bleacher Report and Forbes for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark as the second half of the NBA season gets underway. Most teams have about 24, 25 games left in their regular season, and we will see how the playoffs shake out. NBA postseason basketball begins in less than 2 months. Well, that'll just about put a wrap on what has been a very busy Thursday night edition of Hacker After Dark. In for Rick Ballou the rest of the week. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We got a lot of people to thank, including Brian Toporek, again, Bleacher Report and Forbes. Thank you to Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network. Always love talking draft with my man Ryan Fowler. Also had some very interesting thoughts on Eric Bieniemy, who has now left Kansas City to take the offensive coordinator role in Washington. And is Eric Bieniemy now the head coach in waiting if Ron Rivera is not long for that job in Washington moving forward? And Dalton Miller, Pro Football Network, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. We talked Arden Key, Jawan Taylor, Evan Ingram, and more. And always thank Dalton Miller for his time, again, from Pro Football Network.
Sports fans, it's Carissa Thompson here. And every few years, a new social media platform comes out that changes the world, right? But here's the thing. There's never been a major social media platform built specifically for sports fans until now. My team and I are proud to introduce Stunt, a social platform for sports fans to get involved, post sports takes, and be discovered. Who knows? Download the Stunt app for free now in your mobile app store or visit thestunt.com. Download it now and let's talk sports on Stunt.
If you like live music, fun activities, and sipping your favorite drink at a tiki